Okay, welcome to the Michigan Viejo Homeowners Association meeting for July. This is July 15th. It is 6:40 p.m. We do have a quorum, and so I'm going to open it up for the first item on the agenda, which is the open members forum. Is there anybody here that has any questions of the HOA that is not on the agenda? Okay. I do have one communication that I do want to share with folks that I received via email over the last 2 days. I have been receiving several emails regarding homeless people and second. And
I'd just like to make sure that we do some spell check and stuff down in the pro disposal. They're not referees, they're referee. How do you connect with the titles for that? It would need to make sure that we're a referral or
okay,
the
yeah.
referee and the referrer, the referred person. We need to figure out an appropriate
Okay.
terminology.
One for the referred, one for the referred, and one for the referrer.
Right.
So if you can change
just a little bit of a
referee to
just
referred. Any further comment?
Didn't notice anything else. Personally.
Okay. If there are no other amendments, we'll call to order. All those in favor with the one correction, Aye. Aye. Okay. Passes unanimously. All right. Financial matters. Jeremiah had some issues accessing the online banking system as a new treasurer, and we're figuring some of that out. So it's going to be held over until the next meeting. The financials will be sent to everybody. We did receive, by the way, just so everybody knows, we did receive a check and it has been positive for for pro disposal. In addition, we had cash receipts at the 4th of July picnic of $167.76, which was deposited today. Okay. So just those two things as a sidebar note, so you know that as we go through that we do have money that is in there. Committee reports. Anybody have any committee reports? I do know the welcome committee. I just went and got 30 more copies of all of the welcome packets for Trish. The copies that we made for her 2 months ago have already been completed. There's been a huge turnover as far as that's concerned. So I just spent another $30 today on copies for the welcome. So where's back? Okay, sorry about that short loss of internet connectivity. So the final findings, the Boy Scouts are going to come out. They're going to set up the tents. They're going to do the games. We're going to get water for the event, right? And then Swans had said that they wanted to come out. and be able to set up a table to hand out brochures and stuff, and give out free ice cream.
Oh, you're talking about the Swans.
Yeah. So they want to come out and they want to do the National Night Out event. And they want to also do that at the Museum Park.
They wouldn't come to the park.
We didn't have time because they were very, very short when they contacted us. So I want to get the approval from.
We have a spare ice cream for the river floats. That's awesome.
Awesome. So I need to get a motion because that's an outside vendor coming in, providing us blah, 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 and they're going to be doing.
Well, I have a motion for Swans to come to
They come to both events.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So I got a first. Travis. Second for Tom. Okay.
Discussion-wise, the called my house because we had to have their service.
Right.
And so I talked to her, I talked to her and stuff, and I'm going to let her know what we talked about tonight. I'll give her a call. But they are, there's no forced anything, there's no contract type of issues. They're going to come out. It's a means for them to advertise, but they're not a high pressure type thing. It'll just be informational. We've told them that we are not going to endorse them as a board. That they're peer to peer as sure come out and share and if people are interested in your activity, then they can come to you.
All right. So with that discussion completed, I will bring it to the floor. All in favor of Swans? Aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. If you can call her, that would be great. All right. So anything that you need for the 5th, you're going to take care of it, right? All right, great. That is Tuesday. That is a Tuesday night. All right.
It's relatively easy.
That's relatively easy.
Yeah.
All right. So next item on the agenda is Music in the Park event is on August 23rd, which is a Saturday evening. The event starting at 5:30 on to 7:30. We do have a contract. I did, by the way, provide everybody a copy of the contract. So we're going to pay the entire $800 up front. Everybody has a signed check. We pay for that this evening. We have a responsibility according to the contract to provide bottled water to the band as well as provide them overhead cover. I did do some additional research for an event tent. The one that was at Kmart was at $199 normally, and it was white, along with 6 side panels and 2 end panels. That one ran 9 by 30. I was able to find one online. It is dark green, which I think falls better into color with what we have. It is 10 by 30. It takes approximately 4 people, approximately 45 minutes to put up, according to what they say. And that is available for purchase at $129 with no shipping or handling charges. So,
where's it from?
It is an online purchaser. I've already checked the references on it. Everything is good.
I was wondering if it was Amazon.
I believe that it is. So I can get. I think the end of it is inside of Amazon. I'll get with you so you can get that information.
If it's prime,
we can find out. They said it was free shipping and handling. It should be here. So
We did already actually approve.
right, we already approved the purchase, but I wanted to let you know that we were purchasing an agreement. We're going to go through Kmart for that. So with the event starting at 5:30 and taking approximately an hour to set up, and according to our contract, if you'll take a look at item number 1 on the contract, even though the event starts at 5:30, we need to have the area set up by 4 p.m. So that the band can turn around and set up their stuff. So we need to get out there at about 3 o'clock that afternoon to set up that tent.
have your reserved the shelters?
The shelters have been reserved, all except for one shelter was able to be reserved, which is shelter number 1, which was already reserved.
Is that the one we normally are at? Like the one closest to the,
Yes, it is.
so we're off to kind of
We're going to push a little bit, but we have everything from the grass north of that first area on out. Our understanding is that the first gazebo area, shelter area has been reserved from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for a birthday party. So we don't know whether or not they're still going to be there. We'll start setting up and doing our thing and getting everything set up. If we have to, we'll go a little bit north of there and kind of push out. For those folks that don't know, we've contracted.
It's good.
It's good.
Yeah, it seems to be an issue more on the Wi-Fi side than the actual 4G signal. Since they just get corrupted, I reload here and it works.
Okay. So it's something on this side.
Between the two.
Okay.
I don't know.
Tom, you can continue the monitoring. All right. Sorry for the constant lookout, folks. All right. Is there? All right. So we're getting the water for that night. Also, anything else that anybody can think of that we need to take care of with the music in the park event? We have everything else as far as the planning part taken care of. Any thoughts? Any final thoughts on the music in the park event that we need to get ready? The tent, we're going to make sure that we get that up around between 3 and 4.
Did we run into any more when we made the reservation that just didn't really the issue with when we said on the 17th?
That issue has been resolved with the city. Okay? So we have taken care of the issue with the size of the tent. They thought that the event tent that we were going to be putting up was one of those large event tents that are like a stadium type of tent. We're not putting one of those big tents up that will fill 500 people. That's not what we're doing. We're doing an event tent that is a small event tent that is like 3 pop-ups put together that's big enough for the band to get on deep and dry. Essentially, we're going to be putting the back on and we're going to be putting the 2 sides on so we can contain the band in case of an unplayed. All right? All right. On to the next issue on the agenda. And that is the Pro Disposal 6-month program. So we did announce that we are starting a program for trying to recruit new people into the Mission Viejo trash program this past month in the newsletter. However, one of the things that was still hanging out there was some final negotiations with Pro Disposal on how we were going to track some of this stuff with you know, us turning around and paying for the free month for the person that was the referrer and this and that and other thing. And so I actually met with RJ and Matt yesterday, and they said there were a couple of things that they would be willing to do in changing a little bit of the program and actually making it more lucrative for us, as well as making it more lucrative for the people who are doing the recruiting. The original program that we announced last month turns around and gives $5 to the person who does the referring and a free month to the person coming into the program, blah, blah, blah. So there, I gave you guys all a document here that outlines a little bit different program that we have that they would like to adjust our program with. And in the middle of that is a piece that says Mission Viejo Commitment. See that? It's got a bunch of question marks in there. So let me tell you what that question mark thing is in the middle. And of course, the discussions that we're going to have around this actually will help them with their side of the commitment even stronger. And that is that in December and into January is when our current contract with Pro Disposal expires. So obviously we're doing this program right now to get more people into the program as a means to build up revenue and to work with Pro Disposal. So obviously we want to stay with their contract. We don't have to wait till December, by the way, to renew that contract. And they would like to see from us the commitments that we've been doing have been like 2 years. They would like to see us have either a 3 or 5 year commitment based upon the same language that we have currently in the current contract, so nothing is going to change. We just turn around and extend the contract for an additional 3 to 5 years. So we need to discuss that as a whole to say, do we want to continue the relationship that we have with Pro Disposal, or do we want to, say we just want to add a commitment for 2 years, or do we want to do a 3 or a 5 year? The more of a commitment that we can show them, if we do a 3 year, then they're committed to do so much within the program to entice people in. As we go to a 5 year contract with them, that gives them a little bit more leeway because they know that there's more time for them to make up the difference. Does that make sense to you? Right? Well, I need to let them know soon about the contract renewal. We have about a month and a half to really kick that part off. They're committed to start with the program, but I did want to have the discussion. The contract is a fairly standard contract. It does not mean that once we get into the contract, by the way, there's standard language within the contract that says if essentially if they do something that is outside of the framework contract, we have the right to go to them and say we're terminating the contract in 30 days. All the customers that we have, all the customers that signed up through the trash program come with us to whatever trash program we change to. They have the right to turn around and say to us, you're not abiding by your half of the contract. So even though it's a 5 year contract, it can be severed in time just like any other contract could be if there is cause for termination. Okay. Basically, it turns around and outlines in the contract how much the rate can go up on an annual basis. No more than that. We had what I think the first 2 years we didn't have a rate increase. 2 or 3 years we didn't have a rate increase. Then we had a rate increase. We haven't seen a rate increase for the last 2 years. We've had some fluctuation with prices of fuel, and so they stay pretty standard with us. That they want to make sure that we're as committed as they are to be in the program, to make sure that not only do we get a revenue stream, they get a revenue stream, so that it's beneficial for both parties. Okay. So the first commitment that I need from you guys is whether or not you would like me to start negotiations with them on a 3 or a 5 year contract. I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the contract before it goes to final signature. Would you guys like to have a discussion tonight? Would you like to go over a discussion tonight on a 3 or 5-year contract?
I think what I'd like is to see, both options put on the table, just kind of see if there's what the experience in the side would be to us.
This is.
I mean, I see this type thing, but a lot of this ties to our 6-month referral incentive program. Just to see if there's any additional stuff that they're would be forecasting in the 3 or 5 years.
They're saying that they have this program and they have about 3 other type of programs that they've been using in other communities that has been very successful in pushing the numbers up with the number of people that are there. Currently, we're at 54% of the total residents in Mission Viejo. The goal is to get to 65%. So that's an 11% increase for about 250 more residents into the program. The program changes a little bit from the current one in that under the current program that we outlined and put out last month, what winds up happening is that in the end, we do all the work and we lose revenue stream for the first year for every new person that comes on board. The way that they've redone this program, we only lose revenue stream for 9 months for the one person that, for the first time that they sign somebody up. Every other time that they sign somebody up, we don't lose the revenue stream. So we actually are building revenue stream during this period rather than staying flat.
I understand that. I'm just meaning in any of their other language of by giving them a 3 or a 5-year outside of this, just to see what any of their language is, if there being major language changes just because we've been going longer.
To the contract? No, there's not going to be any language change to the contract other than it being a 3 or a 5-year.
Are we studying out rate increase, or is it going to stay the same?
Right now, there is no plans for a rate increase that they're aware of. Certainly, if the only caveat to that is, if there is a large increase in wages, in other words, if the law passes and says minimum wage goes up by a certain amount, there is a cap within the contract that says that they cannot turn around and have more than a 10% increase in the rate in any given year. So even if the minimum wage goes up by $2, for example, the maximum that our rate can go up per household is $1.90, right? And so per month, $1.90 per month, because it's $19 and a couple of cents, but it's approximately $1.90 per month. That's the max rate increase. Even if there's a spike in fuel costs, they don't do fuel surcharges, anything else. The rate that they charge includes all the fuel costs and everything else, so there's no hidden fees or charges in there. So right now there is no anticipation of anything happening as far as the rate increase, barring fuel going up dramatically or there being a huge change in what's going on with salary. Okay, and again, the longer that we have a commitment with them, the more comfortable that they are with keeping the rate where it is, because they know that even if the rate had to go up 50 cents or $1.90 in 1 year, they know that they can absorb that. They can delay it for a year or 2 years.
I think I'd like to see the board get more specifics, like if we make a 5-year commitment, I want to know exactly what they're going to use for the caps to increase the rates over 5 years. And I know that's a difficult one to do, but tying in for 5 years sometimes is a bit.
It is a speculative thing, and I know that, like I said, I know that what they've done over the last 5 years is they did not give us a rate increase for the first 3, and the last 2 years they only had really 1 rate increase over a 5-year period in the program. I will tell you that if you were to take a look at the other programs that are out there, what we found is that although they have kept their rate the same, right, what they have increased is their fuel surcharges by absorbent amounts and everything else. And so that's why sometimes it's difficult for people when they look at, when people only think about trash 30 seconds at any given time. Past that, they really don't think about it.
Now, are you talking about the other 2 or 3 packages they offer to other neighborhoods, or is this?
This is one package they're offering to us for to replace the one that we approved last month. It is a far better deal. We can wind up a better revenue stream for this versus the one that we put in place last month. For this to get into the newsletter, I need you guys to approve this tonight. Of course, I know that RJ and Dennis at Pro Disposal would like to see a commitment from the board sometime within the next month or so for either, like I said, a 3 or 5 year commitment so that they can begin to work on other programs and actually have like 3 or 4 other different programs that we can put into place after this one expires to try to continue some sort of promotion to get people into the program. So he said we'll see how this program goes and to see whether or not we're able to push numbers up or whether or not it's made any different, no difference at all. Whether or not we've done this, done this, done this. So a lot of what is going to happen with what programs are going to be offered depends on how many people are joining the program. And so on and so forth. So first question I have for you is what they're offering here compared to what we initially incentivized out of the newsletter last month. I already got Troy's answer. He said yes. Jeremiah had already come to me earlier. Yes. This is a far better revenue stream for us. Would you like to go to this program versus the current program that we laid out last month? We can turn around and get it out into the newsletter. Todd can squeeze this in because the newsletter is already jam-packed, and he's left me some space to either recommit the program that we already have discussed and initially opened up last month, or we can turn around and put the revision to it in this month's newsletter and have it go out.
Do we know if we had any response to last month's, what we put in last month?
None.
So making a change at this point would not impact any recent subscriber.
No, and if it did, they said that they would let us know who they were and that we would be able to fulfill our obligation if that's the package they want to go to, or if they wanted to roll into the new program, that they could roll that into the new program. Okay? The difference being is that under the program that we initially started on July 1st, that we would have to do a lot of legwork ourselves in managing who gets the $5 check, who gets this, who gets that, and all this other stuff. Here, they're going to do all the legwork that's going to be needed for this program. We don't have to do nothing. Okay?
Then I'll make a motion to go ahead and start with the contract and just come back with this details as let's get more
Negotiating.
The contract, okay? And what about this program?
Well, do you want to handle those two separate actions? So with your motion then to negotiate, I would second the motion.
Okay. And I will bring that contract to I will email that contract to the board prior to next month. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, I'll take the call to order. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And this is still remaining. And insofar as the program itself that Pro outlined for the structure of the remaining part of through December 31st.
And so it, in essence, is a August through December rather than July through December.
Yes.
So it's a 1 month less.
I can ask them to turn around and bring it through the end of January and have the final folks be able to sign up at the annual meeting.
I like that idea. So I'll make a motion that we
Modify
our promotion plan to this proposed promotion plan.
August 4th to January 31st.
Second.
first. Okay, so, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. On to the next item on the agenda. The 4th of July planning after action. First of all, I want to thank everybody that showed up and that helped set up and tear down. I know that it is a very daunting task. I know I got there early and had to leave as things were getting kicked off to pick up my daughter from the airport, so I appreciate everybody else's interaction as things were going on there. A couple of things that I saw that we need to definitely think about for next year, and this, you know, the after action is simply to turn around and say, you know, what went right, what can we do better? And so the what can we do better? You know, we put up the pop-up tents, and of course the city, as they have done for the last 3 years, as we get there at 8:30 in the morning, are watering all the grass, and it's just an absolute pit of a nightmare.
And they power washed.
And they power washed the area before we got there. Just ridiculous.
It was nice, but
right. And so I think we need to ensure that we, you know, communicate to the city. Don't worry about power washing. Please turn around and
power washing the day before.
Power washing.
Whatever accumulates in 24 hours. We'll do
right.
that.
Don't turn around and don't water the grass at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got to turn around and start setting up at 8:30. Because what that then did was, when we put up the tents, we tried to figure, should we move them more towards the concrete, or should we move them further into the grass? And, we wanted to provide some shades to the volunteers that were, you know, serving the food, but we also didn't want to have the food spoiled to be in the sun, and didn't want the volunteers standing in soupy water, or the people coming to get food to be standing in line. So all those things, I think, you know, really resonate to say that we need to turn around and communicate that to the city. Please don't do that on the morning of. I think as far as the timing, everything else, that went great. I was actually able to, the night before, pick up a lot of the stuff in my vehicle the night before, and have everything already uploaded and everything else. And I think, Tom, you had a bunch of stuff in your vehicle as well, and we were able to dispense with everything. This year, by the way, I want to say that I think that we came very close to being perfect on food. I think that about 20 minutes before the event ended is when I was told that we ran out of the hot dogs and we had very little food left. I think we wound up with about a case of water left, so I think we came very close to perfect planning and not wasting any dollars as far as food or anything else like that was concerned. I want to thank all the people that cooked and served and did everything else for that on that day.
I might make one quick suggestion for the food area next year.
Okay.
And Jeremiah and I talked about this before everything ended. We're going to have to find some kind of way to rope off an area for the one.
For the girl?
Well, the thing I found is the general public was coming into the area where food was being stored, and I just don't feel comfortable with that. We needed to rope off one gazebo saying volunteers only, and I had people coming in to say, well, I just wanted to see what else we had.
Yeah. All right.
Just go about going
A little bit of a containment for the, or not containment in a sense, but you know, containing people outside. How can you phrase that? Like you say, a little bit
just
of
maybe signs saying volunteers only, or food truck only, or something like that, to kind of keep.
Right. Okay. Well, I think what might help next year is that we're going to have the event that we can turn around and pop up, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's going to have the sides, where if we want to put the sides up, we'll also have the backup. And then we'll be able to take, like, the HOA, one that has the HOA name on it. That one also has sides and stuff, so we can actually close that one off. So rather than everything sitting out in those areas, we'll be able to put it into a closed area that we can turn around and block off. So I think that
that could be a good methodology, some methodology.
Right. I think that hopefully will take care of that. Troy did indicate to me that although Ricardo and stuff turned around and let us use the pop-ups or the bouncy castles, he did have a neighbor turn around actually deliver and put up all that stuff that morning.
Right.
And so he had requested that I make a motion that the board either approve a $50 or $100 gift card for that individual's time, energy, and effort for putting up, taking down the bouncy castles. Thank you. So I need a motion for it. I need a motion. He made a motion. He made a motion that was open to $50 or $100. So I need somebody to modify that motion to be specific to $50 or $100. I can't do 50 and $100. I need one or the other. So I would like a motion of one or the other.
I'd make a motion we give them $100 if they wouldn't set up those jumping castles.
Yeah,
Okay, we already gave Ricardo $100 on the bouncy castles. So,
we're talking to the kids.
right? So the question is, I don't know that we have $100 totally in the
All I'll
budget.
say is the kid was there to help pick up stuff and supplies out of Troy's garage. Whenever we got there at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So he started early and he worked all through the day and had to put up with a couple of incidents with kids knocking the houses down. So
Well, wait, discussion.
Well, I got it first, I had a second.
oh, do we have 50 or 100? I didn't
He motioned
100,
100.
sorry.
Would you like to second that motion?
Okay.
So I have a second for the motion. So now we're in discussion.
All right, discussion-wise, one of the things that I really am concerned about is setting precedents that we, after any event, we come back and go, well, this person helped extra, we now need to fund extra,
Right.
because there were a lot of volunteers that day.
Oh, I agree.
Well, although there were not as many volunteers as we've had in the past. So there were other people pressed into duty and, to reward any just one, because, well, they really jumped in and helped. Well, I know my wife was there she helped the night before, she was there that entire day.
So is Tom, so is I.
So was your wonderful husband was there doing, and I'm concerned about setting an improper precedent. He certainly was there and helped, but we didn't engage him. That was through either Troy or the owner of the bouncy castles. Whether they requested it, I don't know how that came about, how he was there, why he was there. But, I mean, he did, it was nice that he helped, but we did have a lot of other helpers as well. And then you're choosing to reward one person for helping.
And I agree, that's totally not fair.
Yeah. When we had quite a few other
Because
people.
we had 2 of our neighbors come and cook, and they started first thing in the morning,
Right.
all the way through.
And we had people that came and went as they could. But because we had less volunteers of our, shall we say, our standard volunteers that
Right.
we reward typically, we already rewarded the annual meeting and stuff like that.
Right.
They couldn't be there, or some of them weren't, some weren't. So I would bring that.
What would you like to suggest?
I perhaps would, based on his, the fact that he not only helped with his bouncy castles, he did help with the dunk kicks and things. I would actually say yes to give him a thank you, but more to the level of maybe $25. Just as a recognizing.
Withdrawn, I agree with you.
Recognizing he went a little above and beyond maybe what he had been requested to do.
Right.
That we definitely want to recognize, but it's not to the same level of.
It's a volunteer organization primarily. That's
Right.
important.
Okay. So Tom has recommended a modification of the original motion from the $100 down to $25. Do I have a second to that?
I'll say.
Do we have any further discussion on 25?
As far as that part of it, because I'd like to make sure we talk other parts here, but
Yes.
as far as that part of this, I'm good.
Okay. So as far as we'll do a $25 gift card. I need a final vote on that. All those in favor of the $25 gift card? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to do a $25 gift card for that individual. I really do appreciate all the time and effort that you put into that, and to, like I said, all the other volunteers that came out that day. You did a phenomenal job, and we served well over 500 people lunch that day. So, yeah. So, all right. Tom, do you have any other comments about after action for the Rovers line?
Additional issue that we observed, we allow people to come in and set up booths, and so the city was there with their open space booth, and that went really well. The balloon crater was a huge hit. There was a tremendous line for kids wanting balloons done. I think that was a wonderful item, and we need to perhaps think along those lines. Games-wise, the games really weren't played very much. The bouncy castles were hit. The dunk tank, people loved trying to dunk whoever was up there. And the balloons were a huge hit. The band, I think, was enjoyed. Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't. Yeah. Right, we can talk that part, but I think the balloon part it was a huge hit. So I wanted to make a comment on that. But one of the issues we had was political party with their activity. We requested that anybody coming to something like that they could set up for people to go to them. We had people being acted out, approaching attendees. After we spoke to them, I was rather rudely receptive. I had a rather rude reception, but you're telling me I can't be out here? I said, yeah, I'm telling you that. Tried to explain it. He got very in my face about it. So we went back to his tent. Pretty soon they came over. They're out doing it again. Well, this time it wasn't for their political party. It was, well, we're just voter registration. I said, no, we're not. I don't care if you're saving the whales or endorsing that we want clouds to fly over. I don't care what it is. We don't endorse. We come to you, only. And well, what if we change our shirts? I said, that's not the point. So we really need to
lay the groundwork with them and set a clear contract with them if they're going to be there. Not just say, oh, you can set up a booth. It needs to be clearly identified.
Right.
It's like any of the other HOA events, we don't back or endorse or approve solicitation of their business.
Exactly. And with the fact that they did come out and do that, it could give an impression that we were endorsing it. Yeah. And I think when we have our neighbors out there that we're off to enjoy being neighbors, that none of us, if I want to go to them, that's my choice, but I don't want my neighbors to feel that I've endorsed putting pressure on them.
Now, I do remember last year at Music in the Park, they also set up a tent. And were you at that event?
But I heard.
I was at that event. They just didn't set up a tent in the back. Then all of a sudden, while music was being played, they started going through and started trying to talk to people
During the music.
And I went up to them and I asked them to kindly remove themselves if somebody wanted to speak with them at their tent, or if they wanted to do something and mingle with people during the break, the 15-minute music break. They did not have a problem. But once music was playing, it is the music and the enjoyment of the music what that event is for. And he says, well, this is a public place. I can go where I want to. And I said to him, so if I was having my daughter's wedding in this park you think that you can invite yourself into my daughter's wedding and make a left turnaround and do what you want to? And he said, well, it's a public place. And I said, this has been reserved by the HOA for an HOA function. It is no longer a public place. I reserved it specifically for this function. Being that this same group continues to push the envelope as to whether or not they can be present or push themselves through and interrupt our guests, I will communicate with them clearly that they need not be in attendance at Music in the Park. And I will give that to them in writing, that if they set up a tent, and if they set up anything, if they're walking around trying to do voter registration or anything else at that event, that I will notify Aurora Police and ask them to be removed from our private event. Even though it is in a public space, we have reserved that space, and they're not going to be asked to be there. And if they do, we will call Aurora Police and ask them to be removed. I find it rude and obnoxious by that particular group to turn around and to think that they have the right to attend anything, anywhere, at any time. That would be like me saying, well, I'm an atheist and I'm going to walk into any church because it's a public space and I can turn around and I can talk about what I want, where I want. There is an appropriate time and an appropriate place to do things. This is not it. And these are events that are to bring the community together, not for political divisiveness.
And I think
so I will contact them on behalf of the HOA and tell them that they are asked not to attend Music in the Park. If they do, they will be asked.
And I think the reason that is that it is to me it's a repeat. You know that they're not willing to live within our parameters, and
right,
and that was not.
And if their response to me is not well received, I will take it not only up because they have their local office, and if they're not responding to me the way that I feel is appropriate, I will contact the office above theirs to turn around and to put a cease and desist order from their state office or their national office to make it very clear to them that this type of behavior is not acceptable and will not be tolerated.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody agree with all that?
That's great. Thanks,
Okay.
Alan.
All right. So we've already done 7B. I actually talked about that at the beginning of.
Yeah, I'll throw something in on that 7B there.
Okay.
We have personally had some interaction with them. We haven't caught them yet. We finally figured out who it was doing it. Our front breezeway, we have a love seat and an ottoman there that we keep covered with various covers. And they disappeared in the middle of the night. The next morning, it's usually sheets or things that my wife decorates from the thrift store. It makes nice covers for couches to sit out on the porch. They come by in the middle of the night and steal the sheets off of them. Yeah, and it was another neighbor that let us know. But yeah, the homeless in there. So we're watching for it too.
All right. So fall cleanup. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Have a calendar available. Fall cleanup we usually try to do in August, beginning of September. Try to do something in that time frame. We have figured out that if we go too much further out from like the first week or so in September, I think last year or year before, we went into the beginning of October and it snowed on us. So we don't want to go that far out. So I think looking here, we have
Let's see, Labor Day, is it going to be the 1st this year?
Labor Day is probably going to be the 1st of September, which means we're either looking at like the Saturday the 13th or Saturday the 20th. I really don't want to push it.
I know that our August right now is just,
I know my month of August is
and yours is too, so.
Yeah, September I think is is appropriate, and I think as long as we avoid that the Memorial Day weekend and into that next one, the kids are back in school. I think looking at the 13th as an initial date anyway, we can double check. Neighbors' calendars, city calendars. We can just make sure there's no other issue that way. That might be a draw for people that we might be taking them away from.
Well, I wanted to make sure we get a final date on this, so I could get this information to Todd to make sure we get it into the August newsletter as well as the.
Right, so we've got enough time to look at it.
We want to do the 13th, September 13th.
And unless we find something totally crazy that we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. I don't think that we will. We're going to do the 8 o'clock start like we do all the time with a meet here. And that'll be the only sanctioned event for that day. Everything has got to come through the organizer for that event. The spring cleanup, I took the initiative to be the organizer for that event. Is there anybody that would like to take the point person for the fall cleanup? Going once. Going twice.
I just hate to commit to something that far out. That's right at the end of the season. And I do want to participate this year. But if I take point on it, then I'm tied up in a contract at the moment, I'm going to be in trouble.
The biggest thing with taking point is turning around and trying to make sure that we have enough supplies. We've got a bunch of stuff in the storage area, but I do know from the spring cleanup, some of the trash bags that we had were not the greatest, so we need to make sure that we get better trash bags. Tom and myself usually coordinate for the roll-off. We decide we're going to do the roll-off. And the other part, the biggest part, is turning around and having somebody that volunteers who want to join in and email to say, yes, I'm going to come out. Or I can only commit so much time.
Can we set up a space on the homepage that people can, like we've done for the
and have an email and clean up
or something, but just like when we have a sign up for Hall of Hayride, could we do a little bit of something on the loop via sign up?
Right. Yeah.
That would be great.
Even if it's only, even if it pulls in a couple of people that you mentioned that others say, yeah, I'm there, but I don't have that sign up.
That'll be a Jeremiah thing.
Right, but if we can do that, that might also help as a reminder for people.
Okay.
And rather than having to email one specific person, that would be the point of sign up. And then it makes it easier for us to track.
That works. All right, and we are committed, by the way, to have it not all the things we do. We've had this discussion for the spring cleanup. Travis has seen that you haven't been here, so I'll kind of give you the short stick on this. The city charges an enormous amount of money for the lane closures along the exterior, so we try to do everything in small groups. Right. Has not had to pay with the city on this to the lane closures along Chambers and Hampton. It's going to cost us somewhere in the area of $2,500. And if you kept the lane open for an additional 20 minutes, then it was an extra $100. Well, it was got all crazy. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So anyway, we try to keep it in small groups and try to make it so that we have 1 or 2 folks. And the problem I did this spring, come around with a truck and pick up all the stuff and get it into our roll-offs so that we can continue to work without having to drag stuff along. We are committed to be done by 12 o'clock. And I thought the other part of this discussion, we can continue it next month, is I know that some folks talk about what we offer to folks. If folks sign up with enough time ahead of time, we can make sure that there is some light Danish or something at the beginning. And that there's water, and that there's some other type of drink to kind of boost people's energy. I know we had a couple that drove along as we were finishing off, and turned around and said, who's buying a lemonade? And you kind of drove them and said, you are. and 10 minutes later they came back with,
On their bicycles.
on their bicycles, came back
Wow.
with about 10 bottles of lemonade, which those people that were along that area found very refreshing. Although we had water and everything else cold, the lemonade really hit the spot. And so I think that those kind of things are appropriate for people that are given 4 or 5 hours at a time. It's a lot of hard labor, very thankless time for people to give. So I want to make sure that they have what they need to be able to sustain themselves during a period of time. So we'll continue to have that discussion next month.
Yeah.
As far as what we feel like we need to bring to the for food and that kind of stuff, but I wanted to kind of put that in your mind so you can think about it. And if some of you can come back with some ideas of what we can do for that. Good? So September 13th is going to be the welcome. Trash day discussion. And so last year we did trash day. We had to clean up in late September. What we did for trash day last year, if you remember last year in September, we had the storms, and then the city turned around and put out these huge roll-offs, about 4 of them across the street from the park, and they had them there for about 3 weeks, and we had already committed with Pro Disposal to have one in the middle of October. It was on a Saturday morning. This event, by the way, is real easy to turn around and take care of for 2 trash trucks. It costs about $1,500. We set up a tent, we turn around and say, let me see your discount card, and we check to make sure you're an active member, but you go ahead and you can deposit. If you're not an active member, how much stuff you got? Okay, if you become an active member, so you can check for $30. I'm an active member, or sign up for the trash program right now, or or you can't deposit the stuff. With that, we had, even though we had all that other stuff go into those roll-offs last year, we had committed to 2 trash trucks for that period, and we said that we were going to go from 8 o'clock until noon, or until that truck was full. So both of those trucks were full, and we wound up filling those 2 trucks that I think we finished off at 11:15, and that was after dumpster after dumpster after dumpster that was done over at the park. I think they had like 4 roll-offs that were being changed out every single day for 3 weeks. That's how much stuff people actually wound up having to throw out because of flooded basements, etc. So we want to continue with that goodwill for folks and encourage people to turn around and clean up the big stuff, and know that if they're part of the HOA trash program and an active member of the program, that there are additional benefits. This is one of those benefits that they have. They have large items. They allow us to literally throw in mattresses, you name it, that you normally wouldn't be able to throw away in your front yard. You're able to turn around and back up the truck, dump it in, and that was that. It was great. We will wind up setting up in an area. Last year we set up in the space between the fire station and Southeast Fitness. We'll try to coordinate the physical location again this year, but we need to come up with a specific date for which we want to do that.
I think, doing it
Saturday is the best day of the week.
on Saturday's best day, and making sure we're still avoiding getting too late into, October still wouldn't be bad, because typically we're not going to have too much in the way of a snow. I don't want to hit November or anything like that.
I hate committing
My thought-
to volunteer projects back to back 2 weekends in a row.
Right, that's the other thing, is you don't want to be too close to the other, so it's kind of
And that's
Well,
why.
it just becomes a bit much.
Right. That's why I was looking at, we've got the fall cleanup on September 13th,
so
right?
if we look into
If we look at, and my thought was to look at either, I'm going to rephrase it. I'm looking at proposing the date of October 11th. I won't propose any other date that my wife would shoot me. October 11th is the date I would like to propose.
that would be, there's enough time, 4 weeks for volunteers, and that day, the it's not a big effort for the volunteers. You're just there checking it, saying, yeah, go in.
Yeah, we just, we need somebody to turn around and kind of
I know,
move traffic.
but I think others seem to forget that the handful of volunteers that always show up, that's time out of their day and everything else. You know.
This was really good, you have to have any other volunteers.
That's
You can have board member with a list and another, like 2 board members can handle it almost. But having a couple extra was
Somebody has to actually be there.
What I did do last year while that trash truck was there, because we had so many people that had so many problems. We had several properties that were left vacant with trash that had been smoldering for weeks in front of their house. You know, when the house gets foreclosed on, all the trash sits there because there's no trash, so there's nothing else. And so I actually had gone out at that point while we had the dump trucks there, and I went out and found several locations within the community where we had foreclosed properties with trash sitting in front of it. Went and got a couple volunteers, turned around and took all of that stuff, put it in the back of trucks, hauled it over to that area, and had it all dumped in those trucks. And the only thing I asked for was, before I go home, please somebody pay to wash my truck. This stuff was dripping from it and was smelling like awful stuff. But we were able to get it off of the streets and out from people's neighborhood areas. And so we thought that was an important thing too, that we weren't just turning around and saying, what you can get there. But if we happened to drive around and happen to see that there was trash there from a foreclosed property, we went out and kind of get that. So, the 11th of October would be great.
You want to give 2 trucks again?
We're talking 2 trucks.
Okay.
So can I get a motion then for the 11th of October starting from 8 to noon?
I'll second.
And that we're going to get 2 trucks. They run about $595 per truck. So it's about $1,200 total amount. So we had a first move. Carrie first.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's unanimously. All right. Final event we need to discuss, and we need to start having a discussion because I need to make sure I can get with the contractor. And we usually start doing this in August to make sure that we're on the schedule. Is the holiday hayride. And I'm sorry that you turn around and hit you with event.
I know, but I'm feeling because I know how full your August is, and trying to negotiate all these contracts before you leave.
Don't worry, I've got help.
Okay.
So I just need to contact him, let him know, and so that he can send me the contract in the mail, and we'll review the contract and so on and so
Well, I'm
forth.
all for this.
All right, the holiday hayride, we had it in December. We have normally had it at least a week before Christmas. So I am opposed to Saturday the 20th of December because it is too close. And that then puts us to the 13th of December, which is Saturday evening.
I would, when is, let's see, Thanksgiving this year will be the 27th. It's a late one again.
Yep.
So if we avoid, we could look at either, the 6th or 13th, I would think.
I would think the 13th gives you a little bit more of a festive atmosphere.
Right, it does, would, and the people who decorate,
Right.
gives them a little more time. So, but I say either 6th or 13th. I wouldn't want to go later than 13th. Definitely wouldn't want to go earlier than 6th.
So I guess that raises another question that I didn't have on the agenda, and that is that last year we did a lighting contest in which all nominations were due in by the 1st of December. And the judging was done, in this case, like this year, we could have it, by the 11th.
Right.
And then the signs would be put out, and then for the holiday hayride on the 13th, all of the awards would have been placed and the signs put up.
I think
So on and so
that would fit pretty well.
Okay, so
12, 13 then.
okay, so holiday lighting is open through the 1st of December. And then,
Did we do the contest starting the 1st through the 11th?
or 1st through the 9th, or through the 9th.
Well,
We allow them up to a certain period, and then we had a period for the judges to go out.
right, and so that,
So I think that it should be through the 7th. So they'll allow the judges the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th.
okay, so the 1st through the 7th?
1st through the 7th.
For nominations.
For nominations.
For nominations.
Nominations will close on the 7th of December. And then 8 through 10 for judges. And then the holiday hayride is going to be on December 13th. Now, one of the things that we talked about was to try to do an alternate location. We've done 2 years or a couple of years here at the church. We've done.
We did last year here, we did the year before was at the school, the year before was here.
Right. And I know that some folks have said, you know, it's kind of hard, particularly for the other half of the community, because it's really nothing getting out there. So one of the things that we thought about in getting the event tent is that we could turn around and set up that event tent near the park and have the parking lot in the park as a place for people to be able to park and for the carriages to run up front. Is that where we'd like to do the holiday hayride this year? I think that doing another part of the neighborhood would be a good idea.
It sounds good, except it's the weather's cold. If someone
Well,
has to be.
one of the things that we've said is that with the event tent and walls,
We'll be able to close it off.
he's got heat port, I hope he
I have
heater,
a portable, 2 portable.
and we can heat the tent.
So we'll be able to
Right.
stuff. So there are ways to get around some of that stuff, and again, we want to try to encourage folks to come out and to enjoy it. We'll have that tent up and be able to, so that people can come in and enjoy. We'll figure if we have to get a generator or whatever to do some lighting and some other stuff in there, but we can figure some of that stuff out at a later date. But I wanted to, because if we have to do it at the park, then I need to get the permit process started.
Let's go with the
If they would require a permit for us to actually use the parking lot or an edge of, I don't know if they would require a permit for that time, but we can ask.
We can ask. And last couple of years, we've been running it from 4:30 through, I think the last ride is at 8 p.m.
We did first right at 4:30. It was a touch light, but it was okay.
Right.
And then the last one at 8, we were done at 8:30. That actually I think went really well. Our attendance, that very last ride had a lot of open people, a lot of open seats. So.
Okay. All right, so we'll go with the same thing, and I'll work with Tom and Jeremiah to get the stuff set up for that when the time is appropriate. All right, so if I can get a motion for the 13th of December, 4:30 to 8 p.m.
For December 13th, starting at 4:30 ride,
Okay.
and then we attempt, or that our at least initial look is to set up at the park.
Okay.
I'll give a second.
Okay. Carrie in a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if there's no objections, all in favor? Aye. All right, passes unanimously. And there are no other items on the agenda. There are the city planning reviews. And so it is now
7:58.
7:58. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
You're making the motion, I'll second the motion. You got it, Travis got the second.
Travis got the second. First, Travis got the second. All in favor? Aye. So unanimous, meeting adjourned. See you all next month.
Because I'm going to sit down and go, Dad, you said 15 minutes.